Hey gang, I'm Fahaam, your financial freedom guru. Let's turn your dreams into billionaire success stories. Today, I'm going to take you on a journey into the extraordinary life of Aloysio de Andrade Faria, a man who went from being a doctor to becoming one of the richest and most influential bankers in Brazil. His story is not just about money, it's about bold choices, family legacy, vision, and how a single decision can change the course of your destiny forever. When we talk about billionaires, most people imagine tech entrepreneurs from Silicon Valley, oil tycoons in the Middle East, or real estate giants in New York. But Aloysio Faria's story is completely different. It's unique, deeply human, and incredibly inspiring because he began his career in a completely different field, in medicine, before destiny pulled him into the world of banking and finance. Imagine dedicating years of your life to studying medicine, practicing as a doctor, helping people heal, and then suddenly, you are called to lead a financial empire. That's the kind of twist that makes this billionaire journey so fascinating. Born in 1920 in Belo Horizonte, Brazil, Aloysio de Andrade Faria came into the world at a time when Brazil itself was still shaping its identity. He was born into a prominent family. His father, Clemente de Faria, was already a respected businessman, the founder of Banco de Lavoura de Minas Gerais, which later evolved into Banco Real. Young Aloysio was brilliant, academically gifted, and instead of going straight into the family business, he chose medicine, one of the noblest professions anyone can pursue. He studied hard, completed his degree, and became a trained doctor. For 2 years, he practiced medicine. He was known to be compassionate, dedicated, and truly invested in the well-being of his patients. It seemed like medicine would be his lifelong career. But then fate intervened. His father passed away, and suddenly, Aloysio was faced with a decision that would alter the course of his life forever. He could either continue practicing medicine or take over the family bank, ensuring that the legacy his father built would not crumble. At that moment, he chose family, responsibility, and legacy over his personal career. That decision made him one of the most powerful figures in Brazilian banking history. When Aloysio took control of Banco Real, it was not yet the giant it would become. Running a bank requires vision, discipline, and a strong understanding of economics, finance, and leadership. Aloysio had trained as a doctor, not as a banker, but he quickly adapted. What's inspiring here is how he transformed himself. He showed that success is not about what degree you hold, but about your ability to learn, to adapt, and to lead when challenges demand it. Under his leadership, Banco Real grew tremendously, expanding across Brazil and becoming one of the largest banks in the country. He modernized operations, introduced new strategies, and focused on stability and customer trust. It's important to understand that during this time, Brazil's economy was turbulent. Inflation, political changes, and economic crises were frequent. Many banks struggled or collapsed. But Banco Real, under Aloysio's steady hand, not only survived but thrived. That tells us everything about his leadership qualities. Now let's fast forward to 1998, a defining moment in Aloysio's billionaire journey. After decades of building Banco Real into a powerhouse, Aloysio made a decision that shocked many. He sold Banco Real to ABN Amro, a Dutch banking giant, for $2.1 billion. Imagine that, $2.1 billion in the late 1990s. That sale not only cemented his status as one of Brazil's wealthiest men but also demonstrated his strategic brilliance. He understood timing, he understood global markets, and he knew when to exit. Many businesspeople hold on to their companies too long, driven by emotion rather than logic, and they end up losing value. Aloysio was different. He chose the perfect time to sell, maximizing the value of the institution he had nurtured for decades. This decision alone set him apart as a billionaire with foresight. But here's the interesting part. After selling Banco Real, Aloysio didn't retire to a quiet life of luxury. No, his entrepreneurial spirit kept burning. He continued his journey in banking, creating a new financial institution called Banco Alpha. He diversified his investments, moving into agriculture, media, and other businesses. His empire grew wider and deeper. By the time of his passing in 2020, at the remarkable age of 99, he was still considered one of the richest men in Brazil, with a net worth that reached into the billions. His companies created jobs, influenced industries, and contributed to the Brazilian economy in countless ways. Now let's talk about the man himself. Aloysio was known for being extremely private. Unlike other billionaires who are constantly in the spotlight, giving interviews, or showing off their lifestyles, Aloysio stayed away from the cameras. He avoided unnecessary attention and focused on his businesses. People who worked with him described him as disciplined, reserved, and committed. That's a powerful lesson in itself. You don't need to be loud to be successful. You don't need to show off to prove your worth. True wealth speaks quietly but powerfully. Aloysio lived modestly compared to the size of his fortune, proving that humility and wealth can coexist. There is also something deeply emotional in his journey. Remember, this was a man who gave up his career as a doctor, a healer, for the sake of his family and legacy. That could not have been easy. Imagine spending years in medical school, finally achieving your dream of becoming a doctor, and then having to step away because of family duty. But instead of feeling bitter, he embraced his new path fully. That's why he succeeded. Because when life forces you to change direction, you have two choices: resist and complain, or adapt and thrive. Aloysio chose the second path, and that made all the difference. For those of us chasing financial freedom, Aloysio's story carries powerful lessons. First, be adaptable. Don't box yourself into one identity. You may start in one profession, but life may open a door to something greater. Don't be afraid to walk through it. Second, understand timing. In business and investing, timing is everything. Aloysio knew when to expand, when to consolidate, and when to sell. That's how he turned opportunities into billions. Third, value privacy and humility. In an age where everyone wants to flaunt their success, Aloysio showed that sometimes the best way to protect your wealth and your peace is by staying under the radar. Finally, remember legacy. Aloysio didn't just build wealth for himself. He carried forward the legacy of his father and passed on something even greater for future generations. That's what financial freedom is ultimately about, not just making money for yourself, but building something that outlives you. Even toward the end of his life, Aloysio remained active in business. He never fully stepped away, never stopped learning, never stopped contributing. He lived almost a century, and in those years, he transformed from a young doctor to one of Brazil's most influential billionaires. His passing in 2020 closed a chapter, but his story lives on as a guide for dreamers, entrepreneurs, and anyone who believes that financial freedom is possible if you combine courage, adaptability, and discipline. So the next time you think that success only belongs to those born into business, think of Aloysio de Andrade Faria. A man who studied to save lives, who then saved a bank, who then built an empire. His billionaire journey wasn't scripted, it wasn't predictable, but it was remarkable. And that's the beauty of life, you never know when your calling will change. But if you answer it with courage, you too can turn your dreams into billionaire success stories. Aloysio's life is proof that wealth is not just about money, it's about vision, resilience, and the choices you make when life demands something bigger from you.